Who knows? All right.
You want me to record?
Well, you have to get closer because this is the microphone. All right, here we are.
How's it going?
Great. I mean, I'm so excited, Brother Bear.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
We've got a project that we're working on together.
I know. Like, it kind of feels like the Beatles.
The very beginning.
Yeah.
Who knows if this will actually, quote, air quotes, make air. But we thought we'd document the process. Why not? Pre-production.
Absolutely.
So, drum roll, please. Welcome to the pre-production of the
Influence
show. So let's get started. Dallas, what is the background and concept of this show? What is Influence?
Yeah, so the show Influence is a show about someone who is kind of an amateur influencer herself, going deep in depth with interviews of actual influencers, finding more about their stories and what it takes to actually become an influencer. So in short, it's a show about how to become an influencer.
Well, and share with me kind of like the first time you thought of this concept. I mean, give me, like, as Gary Vee would say, the origin story.
Yeah, so from a completely honest business perspective, it was kind of a business idea.
Of course.
We have podcast studios here, and I've been able to kind of pay attention to what makes the show work in terms of popularity and what doesn't, and it seems like the number one thing that makes a show take off is the quality of their guests. Or maybe not even quality, but the popularity of their guests. Do they have a following? That's the main thing that determines if a show is going to work or not, basically. And so I was like, man, what if you were to take that notion and take advantage of it? What if you were to design a show purely around the popularity of the guests? And in the modern day, who's the most popular person? By definition, they're a social media influencer. And so I'm like, all right, that seems like a pretty baller concept for a show just designed to interview influencers. Now, how do we actually make that a good show? How do we actually put a concept behind it so it's not just a compilation of interviews? It needs to have a story, a narrative, a journey. And so I thought to myself, well, what if it's a show about how to become an influencer? And who better to interview influencers than someone who's something of an influencer herself? You're pretty popular in the mom blog community. Pretty big deal as far as I understand.
Wow, jeez, Brother Bear, thank you.
Your Social with Sarah page is a huge hit within our family. And just from the beginning, once I had the idea, I imagined you hosting it.
Well, thank you. No, I mean, that's something that I don't take lightly at all. And it's kind of coming around full circle because just to share with some context and background of both of our backgrounds, we're recording this in August. I was going to say October. I don't know why. I'm just jumping ahead to fall. August in 2019, and Dallas and I both work for our dad's company with public relations, and naturally within our PR firm, our employees, team members, and our clients gravitate towards you with your digital marketing background that started when we were just kids. Literally, you were coding websites off of Neopets, and anyways, a full robust background of digital marketing starting from when you were just a kid. And here we are now documenting the journey of creating a podcast together. Throughout my background, I've watched my dad speak about marketing without money, and naturally with the times in the past decade, social media has really taken off, and it's a great way to have free publicity for pretty much anything that you're doing in business or in life, just to do some self-promotion. And so I've always gravitated towards social media. It's always been something that I just naturally have loved to follow other stories. I've gone out speaking about how to do social media, and honestly, it was kind of like a fake it till you make it because I was really only going off of the background that I had. Social with Sarah started with just a page to make my clients more confident going live before we were going live on their social media pages. I was like, no, look, we're just going live on my page. I've got like 10 followers, and that's not that big of a deal, right? And they're like, oh, you're right. But it started to grow from there, and I think that's just because we actually were starting to produce great content without even meaning to. I think some of the most natural pieces of content come from when you're not even really trying, kind of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah, when it's genuine.
Genuine, practicing, and real, raw human interactions is what people really do gravitate towards. But no, I love this project together. It's going to be a little bit of an experiment, and we're living in a content factory age. I like to say that with Real News PR and the company that my dad created, We're constantly creating content with our content newsroom. We have former journalists with Real News PR, and media is changing a lot. It's more than just getting your news now off at the television set. It's getting your news off of social media. And what does that mean for brands? What does that mean for influencers that are trying to establish themselves and keep up with what the conversation is? What is even considered news now? I mean, let's hear your hot take.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because this company was started from the PR perspective largely on the need for businesses to, or the benefit of a business to be on the news means that the journalist has given their credibility to you. Basically, they've knighted you with, you're on the news, you must be important. And in the modern social media landscape, it seems like actually the new journalists are the blue check marks, and the blue check mark comes first before the journalist.
The
you know,
influence.
Exactly. And so I think in terms of the implications for our company, we're going to need to figure out how to get a similar benefit of credibility in the social media landscape by treating influencers almost like journalists. We need to have those same relationships.
I think it's cool. I think it'll be interesting to kind of hear how they made it and what made them feel like they've arrived, or if they feel like they haven't arrived and they're still trying to document what they're doing. They're gravitating a ton of followers, but maybe they're not quite working with brands yet. Maybe they are working with brands. I mean, we're putting you in the producer seat. I think since you came up with the concept and you're in digital marketing and listening to a ton of podcasts, it'll be instrumental to have you produce this show. And what will be very interesting to you is something that will be listened to hopefully thousands of people, make an influence.
Absolutely. No, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for good bits there, especially because it's probably the only time they've been interviewed where they're going to kind of have to break the fourth wall a little bit in terms of, if they've ever been interviewed before, it's probably about, what they're an influencer on, in terms of, they're going to interview them about their fashion blog. They're not going to interview them with the self-awareness of, okay, what's it like to be an influencer? Is that weird for you? Does your family ever get annoyed that you always have your phone out?
I know mine does.
Do you have a legit excuse? Like, hey, I'm working here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of opportunities for good bits there, especially if you can extract, some helpful advice from them. Because who doesn't want to be an influencer?
I think that it'll be neat to be kind of on the ground floor. And for those that haven't been interviewed yet, we get to interview the influencers before anyone else. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I think a lot of them, in that way, we're kind of bridging the gap for them too. Because until you reach 1 million followers, my guess is that they probably haven't been interviewed by their local media. And so in that way, we can help bridge that gap for them too by lending them the credibility of being on a show.
Yeah, taking the next step. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the format. We're going to do interview style. Do you picture us doing the first 5-minute roundtable, catching up on things that are happening, or are you going to want me to just dive right in with the influencer, or, what do you see this format being?
Yeah, so I think in general, the show's format, and it doesn't have to be planned out like this, but in general, the show should tell a story where you're starting out in one way or another, maybe after 5 minutes of conversation, commenting on something we know they were involved in, something going on in their life right now that's probably on their mind and heart. Hopefully you can laugh about it, maybe not. Then you kind of go into the beginning, their genesis of their story. How did you take the first steps into getting to where you are now? Were you just interested in fashion, you wanted to post cool pictures, and all of a sudden your follower count started skyrocketing? Did that surprise you? What steps did you take to capture that and take advantage of that? What projects are you working on now? What kind of brands are you working with? Have you had any horror stories working with brands? What lessons have you learned working with these companies? What are some definite do's and don'ts? How many followers do you have? What kind of analytics do these brands ask you for? Is that something you even pay attention to? And then that's kind of we went from the past to the present, and then eventually, naturally, it's going to lead to, okay, so what are your dreams now? To a lot of people, your life seems probably something like a dream. But what are your dreams? Do you even think about your target follower count? Is there a number you want to hit, or is it more like, hey, I want to work with this brand? Is it, hey, maybe you have an exit strategy. Is that your dream? What's your exit strategy? Would you like to eventually, I don't even know how that works for an influencer. Can they gift their account to someone and like go private?
I don't know. Maybe we'll find out.
So I think there's a lot of good material there, but that's the basic structure would be, casual talk, 5 minutes, then past, present, future.
I like that, and I didn't come to the table without anything. I did provide a couple things I wanted to bounce off of you. So I'm going to get their story. I want to find out when they first discovered social media and their thoughts at that time. I sure know when I discovered social media, and it was something where I couldn't wait to be on it, I guess, I'm moving from high school to college and I want to keep up with these people. I remember early days of encouraging my family members to start accounts, and they were all freaked out, but I forced them, we're going to start a Facebook page and you're going to post pictures and it's going to be awesome. But that's what all the college kids are on. No, we're going to do this right now. So I know that from kind of when you start to look back on where we are now and where we came from, I did have a natural tendency to want to share and connect. So I want to find out that.
That's a great question. You know what I mean? What platform did they make it big on? I probably peaked on MySpace. You know what I mean? Did they? What platform allowed them to break through? Yeah. Where is Tom? We should have Tom on the show.
Dude, what's
Tom from
doing?
MySpace? I don't know.
Is he in a different island?
He needs to be on the show.
He took off. I'm
Absolutely.
Sure. Facebook hit the scene, and then Tom's just. Does Tom have a Facebook? Oh. We need to find out. Okay, well, speaking of that,
I want to actually be his friend.
I think we need to look up, what was Tom's last name?
I don't remember.
Okay. So going back to, when did you discover social media? Show us pictures from the early days.
That's a great idea.
The early day pictures.
Absolutely.
You're going to have to scroll for a long time on
Show me
Instagram.
your first ever selfie.
That would be great. How did you pick your Instagram handle? I know that my Instagram handle, I love the Social with Sarah name, but I have this awkward underscore because somebody stole the Social with Sarah name, but they don't post. How do I get that handle? Is there handles that they would have preferred, that they wouldn't have preferred? What is a handle in the first place for those people that don't know? It's your profile name. I don't know even how handle started. Maybe you can provide more insight. So, because I really desperately want you on the show, Dallas. I think that you provide, I know you're rolling your eyes and nobody can see this on the podcast, but I think that your insight and expertise on the digital marketing front can really provide a lot of context for those that, they're interested in the social media influencer, but beyond the influencer, strategies that they can take home, because you can bring it back around on the person that's listening. I think we could concept that out. We could whiteboard it.
I don't know. I don't think shows work well with two hosts.
No, I think that...
no.
So...
Doesn't work.
Don't give up on me here.
I can think of a couple shows that we have where it doesn't work.
Okay, so for those, we're going to just even provide more context for people that have no idea who Dallas Crilly and Sarah Crilly are, brother and sister duo with Real News PR. Our dad started Real News PR with pitching to journalists, getting print media, television, and radio interviews for our clients with PR. I always say that my dad's book, because he was a former journalist with Fox 4 News, he actually spent 25 years in news, and he decided that there was life beyond news, and he was constantly giving advice to PR people that would call him and say, hey, I've got a story for you. Well, I would love to cover that story, but here's actually what you need to do. So a book emerged, free publicity. Dad started the book, which is where I affectionately say Dad started the book, free publicity, which started the company. Yep. When Dad started his radio show about 8 years later, that started our broadcast studios. And now these shows that we produce now with our PR firm, we've created a digital content newsroom that we have over 60 shows here in 2019 that we're producing for and creating original content for them. Those don't air on television. Those air on digital platforms. And these clients are coming to you to ask, hey, so what do I do with these analytics now that I'm aspiring to be an influencer? What does this look like for me, Dallas Crilly? So I think that there's a couple ways that with this show, I'll be really interested to see what you do with this experimental playground that we're creating online, this digital playground. I don't know. Is where will this live? Will this be, since we do have studios that we built out that are broadcast quality, they're gorgeous studios within the walls of Real News PR and Real News Communications Network, they'll be very shareable shows that are the broadcast online social media aspect that you can watch, but then also the audio version. So as we're like pulling, show us your first picture, we'll have to spend a lot of time, if it's an audio version, just really describing what that picture looks like, but then also pushing them to social media to go check it out. I think that I wouldn't be able to help myself if, and I'm a huge fan of the Gary Vee podcast, if he started talking about a picture from the beginning stages, I probably would go on Instagram or try to find it, you know? Mm-hmm. So there could be a couple different strategies that we have on, hey, we're going to start talking about some visual elements. If you haven't followed us on social media, I mean, is podcast even considered social media? What makes social media social media? I should probably know this.
I'd say the podcasts aren't social media by themselves. A lot of platforms have tried to add social elements to it.
Which ones?
I'm trying to remember
I'm
their
going to put you on
names.
the spot every time.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember their names. I don't remember them because none of them have worked. You know, these great ideas where, hey, what if you could take a clip of sound and send that to someone and they can like, I mean, SoundCloud does that where you can like comment on segments of audio. You know, it hasn't really taken off like a Twitter or a Facebook or Instagram. I think it's grown out of a social media type of culture, you know, but I wouldn't call it social media by itself. And kind of where you're going with it, I think the main platforms we'd be looking at this for this podcast would be, in no particular order, Instagram, YouTube, and the podcast network of iTunes, Spotify, all of those.
But do you love the idea of taking the audio form and getting those listeners to engage with us on social media, or will that be a completely different audience? I mean, I think we make a couple hypotheses here.
Yeah, I think on Instagram and Facebook, most of the content probably actually won't be directly related to the show. You know, I'd say maybe 50% is going to be things like clips from the show, full episodes, quote graphics and stuff like that. But also, a good portion of the content also has to be, you know, sharing actual stuff that has to do with how to become an influencer. Maybe, you know, good clips from Gary Vee, for example. His book Crushing It really is similar to what we're talking about here in terms of tips to becoming an influencer in your own world. A lot of the content on Instagram and Facebook has to be stuff like that, actually about the subject of the show, not the show itself. But yeah, I guess we'll find out. I'm gonna say it's gonna be different for each platform and probably 50-50, just good, practical, personal brand type of content, and then 50% content about the show.
And then we're giving our listeners and viewers advice at the end. I mean, they're learning from the influencers that we're interviewing, and then those tangible next steps for them. I mean, where do we leave them?
Yeah, I think at minimum they should walk away inspired, like your intro promised, but at the show's best, there should actually be some tangible takeaway, some actual...
So am I pulling that out of them, or are you pulling them out of that?
You are. I'm still not sold on being on the show.
All right.
And I think you can pull it out from them if you're looking at it from, you know, I want to become an influencer. You know, being inspired is one thing, but like there should be some actual concrete
that they're leaving
tips.
them with. I mean, I can open that up. Hey, give somebody advice. If they are on social media, they want to grow their brand. That doesn't necessarily mean growing a following, okay? I don't have a following, quote unquote following. I mean, I have like 600 Instagram. And here's the thing with me too. I have to say it publicly. I'm sometimes skeptical of social media. Like sometimes I'll go private, sometimes I'll go public in my own profile. Just because I'll start to get these weird random followers. I have no idea who they are, and I have a freak out moment. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
delete, hide, block. I don't know who you are. You're commenting on all my stuff. I have no idea who you are. I'm going to go private for a while. So I kind of am torn sometimes when how much to share, how much is too much to share. I think that everybody kind of has those thoughts and fear moments on why am I doing this? And I'd love to hear that from a social media influencer perspective on, you know, when they did go public with their account, how that felt. You know, is there some obstacles along the way that they feel inside? Are they torn on what they're doing? Not to put any doubt in their head, but I think that is like that human doubt that we all can connect with. I just want people to be able to connect with the show. And
Absolutely. Well, and I think that would give them a platform. You know, influencers are commonly criticized for perpetuating these false ideas of what's possible with beauty standards, for example. A lot of their pictures are photoshopped, and, you know, this would actually give them an opportunity to talk about that, you know.
set the record straight.
Yeah, and to,
Influence.
you know, I've actually seen influencers post on their page of like, hey, this is what I look like most of the time, you know, and
Authentic,
some of those
real.
pictures got way more likes than their photoshopped ones, you know.
That's true. There's some even celebrities that have asked questions. Hey, do you like my more professional looking pictures where I hire a photographer? Do you like the ones where I'm just posting pictures from my iPhone? And unanimously, it was the iPhone pictures on a lot of those.
Those play a lot better. I can tell you that from a Facebook ad standpoint. You don't want anything that looks professional or stock. It needs to, honestly, like...
But think about it from the brand perspective, though, and I'm going to cut in here. Don't they want more of a professional, polished look? I guess whatever professional means to a brand standpoint, but maybe it's a healthy dose of both. I'd love to hear their comments on that, too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you hire a photographer, when you invest money in hiring a photographer, that is for the brand, or that's for you, or it's for both?
I'd say I'm just guessing. I'm not an influencer. But
I'm
guessing that your personal brand, the crappier the better, basically. And if you're being sponsored by someone, more professional is good. And that also works because when most of your content is kind of that iPhone quality, it actually makes the professional pictures way more significant because there's contrast there. You know?
Okay. And you're kind of talking more about the Instagram grid versus Facebook, because everything in Facebook land kind of blurs together. I don't know how deep people scroll on the Facebook, but they sure scroll forever.
Facebook is
on Instagram.
Facebook is quickly graying. You know, it's looking more like
like
a retirement home.
What are you talking about? I'm a huge
that's an
fan
overstatement.
of Facebook.
That's the perception. But.
Okay. Well, hey, I have an idea too for the show. So I could have where I'm interviewing the influencers, and then you and I could have like a bonus episode where we're going to extract what some of the influencers said, right? And then we get you on the show. Come on, Brother Bear.
I mean, if the kid's too excited, we can do something.
That adds so much energy to my entire soul. I just really admire you, Dallas. I think that it's cool that you've asked me to be the host, but I definitely want to be able to dive deep into the digital marketing realm and your deep thinking thoughts on a lot of these interviews.
It has to be you, though, because here's the thing. Like,
I can interview anybody. I don't know what I don't know, I guess. You know a little bit more.
I'm interested in this, like, literally as the brand, as the marketer. The questions I'm interested in may be the complete opposite of the questions that your audience is going to be interested in, which are...
And that's what makes a full show. I'm serious.
No, talking about stuff that your audience doesn't care about does not help the show.
Influencers will listen to your episodes because they're there. They've arrived, and now you're talking about the analytics and whatever. You know what I mean? Like the digital marketing perspective of the person who's been around for a while. I'm telling you. I think that...
We'll see. We'll let the audience decide.
Influence.
Yep.
Marketer. What's the word for influencer? Short is influence. Marketer. Okay. I'm going off on a tangent. Okay, so I thought we would end on what, by definition, is influence. And why you even named it influence is interesting to me. I don't remember now. We've talked for like 22 minutes, 24 minutes on this, but...
Yeah, it's an episode.
Yeah, and it feels good. It went by really fast. But influence, by the Wikipedia standards, says... Influence is the power to have an important effect on someone or something. If someone influences someone, they are changing a person or thing in an indirect but important way. Sometimes a person who influences doesn't intend to have any effect, but sometimes they're using influence to benefit themselves.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Absolutely. Well, I think, I don't know, number one, it's just a cool word. Influence, you know?
I like the way you say it.
Influence, you know, like it's bold. It's like it's not a normal font. It's a bold influence.
Your logo rocks, by the way. You're gonna make a landing page today. I think you document that journey too. I don't know if you can. When do we start these social media pages? How do we start to promote the show? Now that we've got one episode in, this is totally behind the curtain.
This would be like episode 0. The short answer is you just do it. You just go out and do it. I could detail exactly how, but
we've got an intro.
Yeah. But thinking
we
about it makes it much harder. The short answer is just do it. Like, we know how to make a Facebook page. We know how to upload a logo. You know.
What if somebody has the influence, like, handles? What are we gonna do about that?
I don't know.
It's totally possible. What if they have the domain?
Same way you made your AWOL screen name and it was taken. You know, just add some numbers at the end of it.
So with my Social with Sarah website, just to add a little bit more context to this, because I'm sure everybody has some frustration moments where they're like so inspired and they're like, oh my God, they rush their computer to check and the domain name is taken. I didn't know if I was going to be Social with Sarah or Socially Sarah. And Socially Sarah, because I felt like Social with Sarah was like the side of me that's being social, but the socially, I don't know, both.
Socially Sarah, it sounds like a middle name.
Socially
like
Sarah.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
No.
Socially Sarah.
SociallySarah.com was taken, and again, it was another one of those Sarahs. Who are these people named Sarah? They're stealing my name. Not really. I love all the Sarahs. We have 3 Sarahs that work within Real News PR, actually, with an H. Anyways, so SociallySarah.com was taken, and I was crushed. Social with Sarah was not taken, so that's why I just went public with the Social with Sarah brand as I'm speaking and trying to figure it out and whatever, and sharing all of my wisdom of social media, which isn't as much really. I mean, I'm pretty humble about it. So eventually, Socially Sarah was up for purchase, and it was like 2 years later. So we need to figure out how to redirect and merge those two together. But I know that it's important to kind of have backups of names. And if you're in love with one name and somebody's already taken it, don't give up. It will become available, or you can offer cold hard cash. I tried to reach out to Socially Sarah. She did not answer. She had not updated in years. I don't even know probably where those emails went, but
yeah, I'd say don't let it be a sticking point. You know, like if you want some practical tips, you can usually add the before your domain name. Sometimes you can add an S at the end of it. So like we had a client, HTKpad.com was taken, so we bought HTKpads.com. You know, .co is a pretty decent, you know, end of a URL versus .com.
But how many people are actually going to do a .co? I mean, it sounds like company.
Okay,
but
.net, .org.
That's even worse. .org sounds legit, but you have to be a real organization, right?
Here's the deal. Just launch and figure out the rest later. Like, because if you don't, then you may never launch at all. And that's way worse.
That's really good. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in to episode 000, starring the famous producer of Influence, Dallas Crilly, and his sidekick, Sarah Crilly, that hopefully I can make you proud.
You're going to do great.
Thanks, Dallas. All right. High five. Yeah, we did it.
Woo!
In the books.